You and I met in Arizona last year,
Yes.
and you were making the case that Donald Trump will be better. You were telling Muslim and Arab audiences Trump will be better on this, and he hasn't been better.
From the very beginning, Joe Biden allowed Israel to do whatever they want.
So has Donald Trump. He said Benjamin Netanyahu should finish the job in Gaza. And when he was asked about Netanyahu reoccupying all of Gaza, he said, quote, "It's pretty much up to Israel."
I don't believe that's the case.
That's what he said.
I know, but
So why did he say it?
I'm not in the president's mind.
Would you also call Donald Trump Genocide Donald?
No, I wouldn't.
Why?
There's a difference between disagreeing with the president and condemning the president.
If Biden has said this, you and I would have criticized him. But when Trump says it, I'm criticizing him, but you're not.
I believe that right now, this week, a lot of things are happening at the White House, which I believe are going to end this war. Everybody is tired of it.
Do you believe he is racist towards Palestinians?
No.
So why does he use Palestinian as a slur, as an insult?
That was during the campaign, and I came
No, it was
out.
the other day. It was in May. He called Chuck Schumer a Palestinian.
It's not acceptable.
Bishara Bahbah, nice guy, but very naive. What would you say to somebody watching who says that to you? During the 2024 election campaign, there were some in Muslim and Arab American circles who had high, some might say delusional hopes that candidate Donald Trump would take a different path to President Joe Biden when it came to Gaza. That Trump's America First policy would perhaps lead him to cut off funding for Israel or force Benjamin Netanyahu to end his bombardment of Gaza. Wouldn't that have been nice? And look, some of those folks felt pretty optimistic after Israel and Hamas came to a ceasefire agreement just days before President-elect Trump came into office, only for that ceasefire to fall apart less than 2 months later, with Israel imposing a complete blockade on all aid entering into Gaza. Fast forward to today, and Gaza is suffering a full-blown famine as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu begins his plan to reoccupy all of Gaza. Trump has, of course, greenlit that plan, which frankly shouldn't come as a surprise considering his own open endorsement of ethnic cleansing in Gaza earlier this year. So, were Muslims and Arab Americans who voted for Trump this past election, were they conned by the president who claimed to be the candidate of peace? Who better to ask than the founder of what was Arab Americans for Trump, Bishara Bahbah, a Palestinian-American businessman and activist who was once an advisor to Yasser Arafat and who has most recently helped facilitate negotiations between the Trump administration and Hamas. Bishara Bahbah, thank you so much for joining me on Mehdi Unfiltered. Appreciate you taking time out. You, until very recently, I'm trying to find the right phrase, were President Trump's unofficial back channel, facilitator with Hamas? What is the best description of what you were doing?
Mediator.
Mediator?
Yeah.
Back in April, I believe, Hamas reached out to you to try and pass a message to the Trump administration. And you've been in talks in Qatar and across the region for a lot of this year. So my opening question to you is a permanent ceasefire achievable, in your view, between Israel and Hamas?
I believe it is. We were working initially on a temporary ceasefire, which would involve the release of 10 Israeli hostages versus X number of prisoners, withdrawal from Israeli troops or redeployment from certain parts of Gaza to others. But it seems now that Hamas's original offer was they wanted to release all the hostages in return for a permanent ceasefire.
Yes.
But that was rejected. I'm presuming it was rejected by the Israelis. That's why we worked on the temporary ceasefire. But, I have to just say that I was not a negotiator as much as I was a mediator, meaning I was passing on messages from Hamas to primarily Steve Witkoff back and forth.
Who is the Donald Trump's chief negotiator.
Yes.
Hamas has been offering, a lot of Palestinians say, a hudna, a 10-year truce for a while now. This goes back years, which Israel and the US have consistently ignored. Do you believe Hamas is genuinely interested in not just a ceasefire, but a long-term truce, one in which they no longer govern Gaza? Is that what they told you? Liking this video? Then don't just watch. Hit like, share, and subscribe. And tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But if you want early access to exclusive content, then you have to head to Zateo.com and subscribe now. You'll be supporting fearless, independent journalism.
Well, there's a difference between truce and there is a hudna or a permanent ceasefire. Now, what is being envisioned as a permanent ceasefire is the return of Israeli hostages.
Yep.
And in return, the Israelis would withdraw from Gaza entirely. An Arab/international force would go in and take over the administration of Gaza. But it also entails demands by Israel, which is the demilitarization of Hamas. Now, a hudna would imply that Hamas would stay there, they would refrain from using their weapons, while a permanent ceasefire would entail the possibility of demilitarizing completely Hamas.
So from your understanding, Hamas has agreed to step down from power, but not give up its arms.
Well, the issue of arms has not been on the table during the discussions.
But giving up power has, right? And they've agreed.
They've agreed to give up power to the International Independent Committee.
Yes, a technocratic
committee. They've agreed to that, and they said that they were willing to give it the powers from day one.
So what's the roadblock right now to there not being a ceasefire? As we speak, Palestinians are being killed, 89 people in the last 24 hours, according to Al Jazeera. What is the roadblock to a ceasefire not happening tomorrow morning?
Right now, there is thinking, I am told, and I have not confirmed that everyone is looking, including Israel, at a permanent ceasefire. That would take us months to achieve, because a temporary ceasefire, which was much easier, that did not talk about demilitarization of Hamas, took us months. Imagine how long So I am, even though a lot of people believe that let's get it done with once and for all, I am of the belief that let's go with a temporary ceasefire. At least there will be no killing, no starvation during that time. And there will be plenty of time to negotiate a permanent deal.
Just to be clear on the negotiations, were you part of the Steve Witkoff negotiating team? Are you still part of the Trump mediation or negotiation efforts in any shape or form?
There is a difference between being a part of Steve Witkoff's team. I am not a U.S. government employee. A U.S. government employee cannot have discussions with Hamas. My utility is the fact that I'm a U.S. citizen. I just happen to be in the middle of these negotiations. So I was never part of Steve Witkoff's team, but I am in continuous touch with Mr. Witkoff.
Currently, you haven't given that up. You haven't returned to private life. You're still involved in the facilitations, the mediations.
I'm involved in the media, and it is at his will. You know, he could say goodbye, and I would be gone.
I mean, there's talk of you guys not getting along. Israel's Channel 12 TV network, as you know, quotes you as saying that Witkoff was completely ignoring the mediation team's achievements with Hamas and adopting Netanyahu's approach. It quotes you as saying that he walked out of negotiations too soon. It quotes you as saying, I can achieve more from Hamas when I operate freely.
You know, that's really fake news. I've never used that term, but in this particular case...
So you didn't speak to Channel 12?
I did not speak with Channel 12.
So they just made up the quotes you're saying? Because they're standing by their story since you denied it.
Well, I deny it. I continue to deny. I've never spoken with...
So where did they get the quotes from?
I have no idea.
So you don't believe that Steve Witkoff worked out too quickly?
No. Well, listen, Steve Witkoff and I have a great relationship. I have tremendous respect for the man. And one of the first conversations we had is he told me, Bishara, what I want to achieve is at the end of the killing of Palestinians and Israelis. And he used Palestinians first. And to me, that touched a sensitive nerve.
He's also said Hamas clearly shows a lack of desire to reach a ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas does not appear to be coordinated or acting in good faith. It is a shame that Hamas has acted in this selfish way. Steve Witkoff, like every other Trump official, constantly blames only Hamas for everything and excuses Israel. Is that how you see the situation? That it's all the fault of Hamas?
No. I see it both Israel's and Hamas's fault. I see Hamas's fault because they have procrastinated in coming up with decisions. The decision-making process of Hamas is very elaborate. They have 30 people that have to vote on major decisions that they make. So there were times when I felt that they should have come up with a decision much quicker because there was no need to extend that while people were getting killed.
Understood. they're too slow, bureaucratic, procrastinating. Hamas, Witkoff says they're not acting in good faith. Do you believe Hamas is acting in good faith?
Well, listen, Hamas, at least from what I know, wants to have, to reach a ceasefire agreement.
Okay.
They do.
So you disagree there. Just to be clear, given where we are now, we had this ceasefire when Trump came into office. It was a big achievement, one that you praised. But who broke the ceasefire back in March? It was Israel, wasn't it?
Well, it was Israel, but they used the fact that Hamas was staging the releases of hostages as a provocation, and they used that primarily to break the deal with.
But it was Israel that broke the ceasefire.
Israel was the one who fired the shots. Yes.
Bishara, isn't the problem that for a lot of Arab Americans and Muslim Americans who backed Donald Trump in 2024, anywhere between 1 in 4 and 1 in 3, depending on which poll you look at, their belief that Trump would be anti-war or better on Gaza than the Democrats on the Middle East, your belief, because you were head of Arab Americans for Trump, that belief has turned out to be completely wrong, hasn't it?
You know, I don't want to judge the president. The relationship that I have with the administration is very valuable. All I want to say is that I believe that the president wants to end that war. I firmly believe that. Mr. Witkoff has reaffirmed that to me just on Saturday. He said, we need to end that war. We needed to end it by hook or crook, essentially. So there is a strong determination that the war needs to end. And the president was very upset when he saw pictures of Palestinian starving children. He was very upset. And he said, I know that he told everyone in his administration, make sure that food gets in.
But isn't the problem here that Axios has reported, and many Israeli newspapers have reported, that when Netanyahu brought in that blockade of food in March, that was with Trump's permission. Netanyahu said at the time it was done in full coordination with President Trump and his people. So those starving children, that's the responsibility of the US government, which is Donald Trump. You said before the election that you had been persuaded that a second Trump presidency would, quote, and I'm quoting you, put an immediate end to the war in Gaza. That did not happen, has not happened. In fact, the war is expanding. As you say, we're seeing starving children on our TV screens, being starved in a way we've not seen before in this war. We've seen people killed, continue to be killed in record numbers. There's 89 in the last 24 hours on the day we're speaking. What happened?
Well,
immediate end to the war didn't happen, did it?
You know, you recall that on January 19th, one day before the elections, a ceasefire was declared. Now, later on, I was told that that ceasefire agreement was full of holes, and that was the work of the Biden administration. It was not the work of the Trump administration.
Well, he took credit for it. I mean, he took credit for the ceasefire. Now you're saying it was the Biden administration ceasefire when it didn't work.
It did not work, okay?
Because Israel broke the ceasefire, as we just discussed.
Israel broke the ceasefire, but at the same time, I still believe that the president wants to end this war. Now, in the meantime, a lot of elements, geopolitical elements, such as the Iran-Israel war, took place that changed the considerations of the U.S. government. But, maybe it's out of faith more than anything else, but I am...
Well, talk about your faith in Trump. No, because it's interesting because you were very, just for viewers who don't know you were very passionate last year in opposing the genocide in Gaza, but also opposing the Biden administration. You were very critical. Yes. And Joe Biden supporters would also say, well, he wants to end the war. And people like you and me would have said, well, he can end the war and he hasn't done it, right? I think that's a fair view. You called Joe Biden Genocide Joe multiple times. And there was clearly an argument for saying that. In my view, Joe Biden was complicit in a genocide. But in my view, Donald Trump is also complicit in a genocide. He has helped Benjamin Netanyahu bomb, besiege, starve the people of Gaza for more than 6 months. So would you also call Donald Trump Genocide Donald?
No, I wouldn't.
Why?
Because the situation during the Biden administration, that war could have been stopped at a much easier manner than it would be right now. Things are getting significantly more complicated from my perspective. I mean, listen, I am my grandmother was from Gaza.
Yeah.
I relate to the people of Gaza.
But it is a genocide in Gaza.
My goal, it is an Israeli imposed genocide, yes.
But Joe Biden was complicit in that genocide.
You know, I know where you're getting at, but the thing is...
you know what I'm getting at? Because I don't understand why is one president complicit in genocide but not another?
Because...
I didn't make you call him Genocide Joe. You called him Genocide Joe. You said, this is you last year. Arab and Muslim Americans are sick and tired of Genocide Joe. He is arming Israel to the teeth, killing and wounding almost 2% of Gaza's population. Why does that not apply to Donald Trump? Everything in there applies to Donald Trump.
You know,
he gave billions of dollars of weapons to Israel as soon as he came in. He lifted Joe Biden's hold on 2,000-pound bombs.
Donald Trump wants to end that war.
So why did he lift the hold on 2,000-pound bombs? Literally 5 days into office.
Listen, I cannot be responsible for the decision.
I'm not asking you to be responsible. I'm asking you, do you agree with me that he, therefore, is the same as Biden?
He's not the same as
why?
Biden.
I'm asking you to explain to our viewers why.
Because President Trump wants to end this war, and
Biden said the same thing. Whether you want something is irrelevant. Is he ending the war? No, he's giving them more and more weapons, billions of dollars of weapons. Bypassed Congress to do it.
Time will only tell that the president is going to end this war.
Even if he ends the war, the point is we're 7 months in right now, 8 months in. A lot of people have died, thousands and thousands.
A lot of people have died.
On Donald Trump's watch.
A lot of people have died.
But you said last year that he would end the war. You told Arab Americans to vote for Trump. But he hasn't ended it.
Listen, I believe whatever I said, I stand by.
No regrets.
About
what you said last year.
No, absolutely not.
So when you said last year that you take Donald Trump at his word, those were your phrase. He is a man of his word, you said, when Donald Trump promised to end the war. I mean, he's broken that word. He hasn't ended the war. In fact, he's made the war much worse. Surely you regret saying that.
Well, I know that he's working very hard to end that war.
That's exactly what people said about Joe Biden, Bishara. And you and I mocked them.
You know what? Joe Biden, from my perspective, was in a different category because from the very beginning, Joe Biden allowed Israel to do whatever they wanted.
So is Donald Trump. In fact, he said, let me just read this quote to you from Donald Trump just last week. He said, Benjamin Netanyahu should finish the job in Gaza. And when he was asked about Netanyahu reoccupying all of Gaza, he said, quote, it's pretty much up to Israel.
I don't believe that's the case.
That's what he said.
I know, but
so why did he say it?
I'm not in the president's mind. But
if Joe Biden had said that, you'd have criticized him. He says it's pretty much up to Israel. This is green light. Finish the job, up to Israel. Those are Donald Trump's words. They're not my words. They're not Joe Biden's words.
You know, all I know and all I'm working for is an end to this war.
I appreciate that. That's why we invited you here. That's why we talked about where we are in the negotiation. But you also played a big role in the election, and I'm just trying to get a sense of, do you have any regrets? You're saying no. I'm wondering why, when he's clearly betrayed you.
Well, listen, the president is intent on ending this war.
Intention doesn't matter.
No, but
everybody says they want to end the war.
They have to start with an intention, okay, that leads to action. I believe that right now, this week, a lot of things are happening at the White House, which I believe are going to end this war. Everybody is tired of it, including this administration.
And how does the war end in terms of what Israel gets? Because many would argue that what Donald Trump is proposing is much worse than anything Biden or Harris proposed. He's proposing a plan for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. Everyone must leave.
No, listen, if you recall, in February of this year, I came out categorically opposed to the notion of having Gazans leave Gaza by force or by
which is what the president you voted for has called for. He called for it. He said we will clean out that whole thing.
But you know, I am opposed to anyone forcing Palestinians to leave their homeland for any reason whatsoever on earth. Okay.
He said they have to leave and they can't come back. How are you okay with that?
But no, Palestinians will not. I'm not okay with that.
But he said that. Donald Trump. I don't know why you're getting annoyed at me. Donald Trump said when he was asked on Fox, once they leave, can they come back? This is what Donald Trump said. No, they wouldn't. How are you okay with that?
I'm not okay with that.
So have you told him you're not okay with that?
They know exactly how I feel.
So isn't the Trump plan for ending the war in Gaza much worse than anything we've seen before?
Listen, what is at the table right now is a permanent end to the war, Israeli withdrawal, Arab troops going in along with international troops to take over and manage the Gaza Strip. And that's what at the table. There were times when the president said, no, Palestinians will not be forced out of Gaza. Palestinians can always come back to Gaza. He said that. So it just depends.
What day of the week it is.
You know, I'm not responsible for what the president said.
I'm not asking you to be responsible. I'm saying, do you agree with it or do you condemn it? You were very vocally condemnatory of the previous administration, which you were every right to, and I shared your criticisms. I'm wondering why you won't be critical when this president says much worse than Joe Biden.
Listen,
I don't remember Joe Biden telling people not to come back.
I have the right to be critical, but I do not condemn the president.
Okay.
Because I believe he wants to end this war.
Do you believe he is racist towards Palestinians?
No.
So why does he use Palestinian as a slur, as an insult? He said Chuck Schumer is a Palestinian. He's no longer Jewish, he's a Palestinian. When you hear the President of the United States use your ethnicity, your nationality as a slur, that doesn't bother you as someone who's working so hard on his behalf?
Listen, that was during the campaign. And I came out...
No, it was the other day. It was in May. He called Chuck Schumer a Palestinian. Literally a couple months ago. I cringed as I saw it. Did you not?
When he did that during the campaign, I came out with a press release that said we cannot be used as a slur.
When he said to Joe Biden, right? I remember you did.
No. He said that to Joe Biden, and he called Chuck Schumer at the same time. He called them Palestinians.
So how does that make you feel that 6-8 months later he's still doing it?
It's not acceptable. It is not acceptable.
Have you made that clear to the White House? I mean, you're a Palestinian working hard for the Trump administration to try and get peace. And Donald Trump goes on TV and keeps calling the most senior Jewish Democrat in the country. He's become a Palestinian. He's no longer Jewish. He said this in March. He said it in May.
I'm very proud of being Palestinian. I'm very proud of that. And I will not accept nor allow anybody to use my ethnic background.
Hold on, you are accepting it because you said
I'm not accepting.
You said a moment ago you won't condemn Donald Trump.
There's a difference between disagreeing with the president and condemning the president.
I feel like this is partisanship, Bishara. Because if Biden had said this, you and I would have criticized him. But when Trump says it, I'm criticizing him, but you're not.
There's more at stake right now than there used to be before. Meaning, I am involved in a process where I could have my views heard.
Okay.
If I go out and condemn the president, do you think he's willing to hear my views?
That's a fair point. That's one of the challenges of diplomacy.
That's where I am.
So let me ask you this then on the diplomatic front. You said last year that President Trump during his presidency did not initiate any wars. How did you feel about Donald Trump becoming the first American president in history to bomb Iran at Netanyahu's request, something George Bush didn't even do?
I was not happy with that.
That didn't help the negotiating process, did it? Do you think it set it back?
No, for Gaza?
Yeah.
I don't think they were related. Okay. I don't think one was related to the other. But at the same time, this country needs to stay away from other countries and impose its will on other countries.
So I agree with you on that. And one of the points you made, and you make a very good point. You are, let's just be very honest. You're being very blunt. I want to be blunt. You are constrained in what you can say because you're trying to have an impact on the administration. If you condemn Donald Trump, you'll be out. I get that. But you have another role too, Bishara. And that is you were the founder of Arab Americans for Trump. You played a very political role in the election. So people have every right. And I wonder, do people come up to you from Arizona or Michigan or Pennsylvania? A lot of Arab American voters voted for Trump. And they voted for Trump because he said, I'm going to be the candidate of peace. I'm going to not get involved in any new wars in the Middle East. You said, we can trust Trump. He'll end the wars. Biden won't end the wars. Harris won't. Trump will. Then he bombs Iran. He bombs Yemen. He's killed more people in Yemen than any American president in 20 years. And obviously the Gaza genocide continues. So I wondered, what do you say to Arab American voters who say, Bishara, you misled us. You got Trump wrong. We shouldn't have done this. What do you say to them?
When my positions were taken during the Biden administration, they were clear. We wanted to see an end to that war. Now, I am not for U.S. intervention in other countries. In this area, the president and I and his Mr. Witkoff and I could disagree.
Yes. Which would be fine if you were just a negotiator or diplomat, but you're also a guy who went to swing states. I think you and I met in Arizona last year,
Yes.
and you were making the case that Donald Trump will be better. You were telling Muslim and Arab audiences, Trump will be better on this. And he hasn't been better. In fact, he's been worse. No American president has ever bombed Iran. Donald Trump did.
You know, my major concern right now is Gaza. Okay.
And he's been worse on Gaza, as we've just discussed. People are starving in Gaza because of Donald Trump.
We talk about Gaza, but also the West Bank is getting torn apart by Israeli settlers with soldier acquiescence, Israeli soldiers acquiescence.
And American citizens killed.
And there is a 15-year-old American boy who's been in jail for the past 6 months.
And no one seems to care. I was just on Piers Morgan's show this week with Ambassador Mike Huckabee, Trump's ambassador to Israel. He didn't say one word about any American citizens being killed or detained.
It's shameful because an American citizen is an American citizen, irrespective of their ethnic background.
So let me ask you this. You spent a lot of time dealing with the Israelis, the Hamas, even the Arab governments. You spent a lot of time in Qatar in negotiations. What is the role you think that Qatar is playing? Because a lot of people have praised Qatar for its diplomatic efforts. Other people say, no, especially supporters of Israel. Qatar's part of the problem. They host Hamas. They allegedly fund Hamas. What's your view of Qatar's role in all of this?
Qatar attempts to play a constructive role. They want to see an end to this war. I heard the Qatari Prime Minister say the other day that Hamas was allowed to have an office in Qatar because the United States asked them to do so. Now,
is that your view as well?
I don't know.
Okay.
But
it serves the US purpose to have somewhere to be able to speak.
It serves the U.S. purpose. Same way that it serves the United States having me mediate between Hamas and the administration. So I believe that Qatar is playing a very constructive role at the present time. They're applying as much pressure as they can on Hamas Hamas has 3 countries where they can go to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's either Turkey, it's either Iran or Qatar, okay? So having them in Qatar allows the Qataris to play a moderating role on Hamas. So I believe that the U.S. administration sees the benefit of that, and that's why, nobody's saying anything about Hamas being in Qatar.
And how would you describe the Israeli government of Benjamin Netanyahu? Are we seriously expected to believe that a government that is openly talking now about annexing Gaza, reoccupying all of Gaza, expelling the population, that government is interested in peace or coexistence with the Palestinians, that it isn't an extremist government?
I have zero faith in the Israeli government. I don't think that they have a shred of concern about the Palestinians, their feelings, their well-being, their humanitarianism, or anything of the sort. As such, and by the way, I have not had any dealings during the period that I've been involved in the mediation. I have had zero contact with the Israelis. So, what Israel is doing is shameful.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable, and we have to stand up.
So again, you and I think agree on that. Where we disagree is, again, sorry to return to Donald Trump, you said last year explicitly, you said Joe Biden's giving Netanyahu everything he wants. Netanyahu's scared of Trump. This is what you said. Trump will come in and force him to the table. In fact, Donald Trump loves Benjamin Netanyahu even more than Joe Biden seems to have. He says he'll cut off US aid to Israel if the Israeli courts dare to prosecute his friend Bibi, the war hero, he calls him. That's Trump's view of Netanyahu. It's very, very friendly.
I can't comment on what the president says.
Are you disappointed though?
Because
you put this on the record last year.
I know.
You said Trump will come in and be tough on Netanyahu. In fact, he's been more pro-Netanyahu than
any encouragement of Bibi Netanyahu is totally rejected and unacceptable. Because everyone knows that this individual does not even care about Israel. He cares about his own political future, period.
But Donald Trump is helping him with his whole political future. He's trying to get the courts to back off from prosecuting, using US aid as leverage. Again, if Biden had done that, you and I would have been up in arms.
That's true.
Is it true that Donald Trump told you privately he supports a 2-state solution?
Well, what happened is this. When I was first introduced to the president, he made a comment. He told me that he was very appreciative of my support. I said, Mr. President, I'm doing this because I believe in that the ultimate resolution to the conflict is a two-state solution. His response was 100%. Now, you can interpret that as you wish. Now, these days, obviously, the vice president just came out and said, we're not going to be recognizing a Palestinian state, but he did not close the door on that either.
I mean, not only are they not recognizing it, they're threatening allies that are trying to recognize a state. Canada's being told that their trade deal is in jeopardy because the Canadians want to recognize a Palestinian state. That's how anti a Palestinian state the administration you support is. Must frustrate you as a Palestinian-American.
It is some of the things that come out of the administrations could be very frustrating and are very frustrating. But at the same time, you know, one has to look at the end goal. The end goal for me is to first of all, get a ceasefire in Gaza, get Israeli troops out, and then begin toward the road of a Palestinian state living alongside Israel. So that is the end goal.
What would you say to your critics watching who say his heart's in the right place, he clearly cares about the people of Gaza, but he's very naive. He's working for Donald Trump and Mike Huckabee and Marco Rubio, who don't care about the Palestinians. He's working for a president who uses Palestinian as a slur, who says, finish the job. Bishara Bahbah, nice guy, but very naive. What would you say to somebody watching who says that to you?
Everyone has their own opinion. If they think I am naive, let it be. But I believe that the path I'm taking is the proper path to achieve the goals that I've stated earlier to you.
Just before we finish, I asked you about Israel and Qatar and Trump. Let me ask you about Hamas. How does Hamas today compare to Hamas pre-October the 7th? Because on the one hand, Israel claims to have killed over 10,000 Hamas fighters. On the other hand, they also present it as this all-powerful force bent on Israel's destruction and existential threat. How strong or weak is Hamas right now, in your opinion, as someone who's spoken to a lot of their leadership?
Well, you know, I did not know Hamas prior to October 7th. I can tell you about my experience with Hamas right now. Militarily, they're willing to fight. They're willing to die. So everybody has to be to recognize that and be on notice. They're willing to fight. If Israel wants to go inside Gaza, whatever area that has not been occupied, it's going to be a very tough fight. But at the same time, Hamas right now is very pragmatic. They realized that what happened following October 7th was the utter destruction of Gaza, which they did not anticipate. Okay, and they want to put an end to it. That's the perception I get from Hamas today.
One last question for you. Isn't the problem for Palestinian Americans, you've been following this conflict for many years now, following American politics on this conflict, isn't the problem for Palestinian Americans, Arab Americans, Muslim Americans, that whichever of the two parties they vote for, Palestinians keep getting screwed, whether it is Bush or Trump, whether it's Obama or Biden, and not just by the presidents, by Congress too, which basically, with a few exceptions, is in lockstep with the Israeli far-right government. Isn't that a huge problem for Palestinian Americans today and Muslim Americans in general?
You know, both parties have been very frustrating for Arab Americans, Muslim Americans, certainly Palestinian Americans. But at the same time, instead of giving up, we should get more involved. You know, our young people should get in, go to Capitol Hill, work as staffers there. And that's what we should be doing. We don't have an effective Arab American lobby or a Muslim American lobby that can go into any office that they want. What we need to do is work on constructive steps that would ensure that Arab Americans, Muslim Americans are involved in every step of the political process in this country. That is the only way we can have our voice heard.
I agree with you. On that note of agreement, Bishara Bahbah, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you joining Mehdi Unfiltered.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications. For exclusive content and to support our independent, unfiltered journalism, head over to Zateo.com. Your support matters.